Welcome to this edition of Keeping It Rich with Sakina. Here we usually talk about the 5 keys to keeping it rich: defining your rich, investing in it, building your credit, owning something, and hiring people. Today I want to talk more in the defining our rich space. Like, how do we define it in our entertainment? Particularly, I want to talk about in dining, in fine dining, casual dining, however you define it, whatever you do on those days when you say, I am going out today. I am going to have a great day with my girlfriends. We're going to brunch all day. On Sunday, I did that. Me and a girlfriend went and we sat in a very casual dining restaurant. Like everybody has one in their town, pretty much. And she saw something on TV that told her that, like, you got to come and eat this specialty pancake before it runs out or something. So it was a fun experience. We kind of went and we stayed there and we stayed there long. Made me think about how long a lot of us stay in a restaurant and really what is the economic impact of that on the waiter and on the establishment. And I'm sure most of you don't think about that. You say, well, I'm just going out to just hang out. Of course, that also leads to the other conversation that I want to get into today, which is about tipping and how much do you actually tip? Like, what are you supposed to tip? I always talk about keeping it rich is not keeping it cheap. Got me to actually digging up some actual numbers. And I have found that the federal Fair Labor Standard, the federal wage for um, employees, tipped employees in food service, is combined $7.25. The trick in that is the employer is only required to give them $2.13. The other $5.12, ladies and gentlemen, is supposed to come from us. That's to make up a $7.25 federal wage for states that go by the federal wage. There are other states that have a different wage in place based on their state. So I noticed there's like about five, a handful of them, that actually their state wage is up to about 12, no, up to 16.50 an hour. So in California, for instance, they just have a flat $16.50 that has to be paid to the employee before any tips are given out. That's exceptional. That's really exceptional because the next one under that is like $11 and something in Alaska and $11.13 in Minnesota. And so that's only them for the like kind of handful. But for those that are like in the Northeast, like where I am, the cool thing is with New York, New York actually is at $16.50, right? Is the minimum that they have to get, that the actual server has to get. But that whole 16.50 doesn't have to come from the employer. It doesn't have to come from the restaurant owner. The restaurant owner only has to give them $11 an hour. And it's presumed that we are going to make up the difference and pay at least $5.50 per hour in order for that waiter to get to his fair wage, which in New York would be $16.50. In the District of Columbia, for instance, in DC, it's $17.50, but the employer is only required to pay $10 per hour. And so, all of my good fellow keeping it rich folks down in DC, going out in DC, it's expected that you are going to cough up the other $7.50 per hour, right, to your server. So I bring this up because when we go out and we sit there, you know, and luxuriate in these restaurants for hours and hours and hours, like, are you thinking about, hey, I should be paying this guy $5 per hour as long as I sit here, or $7 per hour, depending on what state you're in order for them to get the fair wage of that state. And now I know there's a lot of people that say that's not on me. They decided to take that job. They knew how that was going to work out. So if the federal law is that they only got to pay them $2.13 and they go for it and just hope I give them a tip, that's on them. But I'm not giving it to them. I want to bring your attention to, first of all, the times that we're in, that we are all pretty much in a economic volatile situation right now, and we're all caring so much about employees. We're caring about, we want people to keep their jobs. We don't want there to be cuts in anything. So when you have that philosophy on one side, right, that, oh, we don't want to cut these programs because there's so many people that need them, but then on the flip side, there's people that are working a fair wage, and we feel like that ain't my business. I don't have to help you get paid, considering what I'm bringing to your attention is their actual salary is dependent and expectant that they are going to receive a portion of their salary from us, from the consumer that comes in here. Just wanted you to know it's built in that the expectation is that they're going to get a tip. So just keep that in mind the next time you go in a restaurant and luxuriate, like I said. Now, another thing that this brings me to is when you go on the date, right? You go on a date. So around Valentine's Day, I went on a date with this guy, and I actually told him, I said, I almost didn't accept this date because, you never tip enough. And I feel really uncomfortable about that. So I feel like I want to make sure I bring cash whenever I go on a date with you because I want to make sure that I supplement whatever you put down for the guy. Because even when he's writing it on his ticket, I can see what he's writing. And he's always tipping like 10%. So he told me, he said, "Oh, really? Well, I always just tip the same as the tax." Oh my gosh. Like in most states, like if your tax is 5% or 6%, he's saying he does 6%. So if we go out and eat and we spend $100 on the ticket, he is tipping this guy $6 on $100 meal. Of course, in the math that I just told you, if the guy is waiting for an hour, he's supposed to be getting $5 an hour at minimum. You barely paid for 1 hour. Like you just paid a little bit for 1 hour. We sat here for 2.5 hours catching up. And that's just for one of you. And I'm also here like, dude, please stop. So I told him, you're not doing this right. Twice the tax is what you're supposed to tip. And so he was like, oh, check out what he said now. Check this out. I thought this was he said, "Oh, well, I didn't know. You should do that in one of your videos." So, I mean, if he bold enough, he should just drop a comment, right? Drop a comment because he said, "Oh, well, I didn't know. You should just do a video about it." So, hey, as they say in Living Color back in the day, wrote a song about it. Here we go. You should tip. The common tips are 18% to like 22%. And nowadays they show you on the receipt when you get it. This is, customary gratuity amount. And I think in that, there's also the gauge, right? So if you always just tip the lowest amount, which is 18%, but you feel like you had exceptional service, usually you still don't go above the 18%. A lot of people are still sitting there saying, well, I did 18 or I did 20 or I did whatever that lowest number was. But now I hope that when you do it, you will factor in, well, how long did we actually sit here? How many hours did we take up that this person was expecting to get the balance of their fair salary from the people tipping them during these amounts of hours that I actually sat here? And I'm not saying this to say there's anything wrong with sitting there a long time. I've sat there a long time, but I try and be commensurate in my tip amount based on the amount of time that I sat there. So just take that as a little quick tip from Keeping It Rich. And thank you so much for tuning in.